program. We're going to be talking cropping, irrigation, and also taking you out to Lincoln University. But in just a moment, we're going to be talking farm accounting. Terry, tax dodgers, not having a very good Christmas, but a very lazy one.
Yes, IRD have been active out there again, and they've caught a couple of retailers up north who pocketed over $2.5 million worth of cash and never declared the income tax or the GST on it. And as IRD said, it was a blatant case of failing to pay your tax and paying their fair share. So they went after them big time. Got hauled up before the judge. They only got between 2 and 3 years each though as a prison term.
Do they have to do retribution?
There was no mention of it, but it made it clear that they'd benefited big time. They paid off a $380,000 mortgage in 2 years using this cash. So I'd suspect at some point IRD will go after the assets as well.
How can people not learn, Kerry, seriously?
Well, they've probably figured that they had cash, they could get away with it. They had 4 retail stores, so they probably thought if we take a little bit out of each, no one's ever going to notice. But the figures don't stack up in terms of the ratios, etc. that IRD kept, so they got caught.
And it's pretty obvious if you start buying boats and paying off mortgages and you've got so much income.
Exactly, yes.
It's not rocket science.
No, it's not. And I've got a feeling that someone might have also had a bit of a word to IRD about it, because for them to just sort of go guns and nails like this, they went big time. And they got them, which is good.
$2.5 million.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a heads up for people that, you just can't get away with it. IRD do know what's going on, and they will get you one way or another.
Yeah, it's only time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's like drink driving. It's only time.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Speaking of drink driving and holiday time.
Yeah, we've got the Christmas holidays obviously coming up, and so for farm employees it gets a little bit tricky because we've got Boxing Day and New Year's Day now falling on a Saturday. So under the legislation it gets moved to the Monday. So as an employer, you've got to look at what staff you've got on when and who's working what days, because your payroll does get a bit more complicated.
And how does that work? You get a time and a half and a day off and lieu.
Yeah, well, the first step you've got to work out is whether they actually normally work the Saturday. So if they normally work the Saturday and you give them a day off, that's their public holiday. But if they don't work the Saturday, then they'd have their Monday as the public holiday.
Right.
So that's your first step. And after that, then if they work on a public holiday and it's their normal day, they get time and a half and a day in lieu. And that's mandatory under the legislation.
Yeah, that's right. But you've got to be onto it.
Yeah, you've got to do it right. And one of the key things is you can't alter your roster to take people off on a Saturday that normally work, so that you can avoid the public holiday. If they normally work a Saturday, they should still be, in theory, rostered on for that Saturday.
Yeah, and contractors as well.
Contractors doesn't really matter.
If they want to work, them.
Yeah, if they want to work, that's up to them. You don't have to worry about it. You just pay them whatever their invoice is. It's your staff that you've got to watch the most.
Yeah, okay. Now tell me about this tax scam that seems to be out there.
Well, there's the online scammers getting far more clever now. They're creating websites that look like IRD, and so people have been hooked into them, filling in their details, and of course the scammers run away with and start ripping them off. Also the emails that are coming out now, we've seen a recent one this week that came out, and it's almost bang on what IRD would send out. The only difference was the email address. So if people are getting emails, they need to make sure that email address that it's come from ends in the ird.gov.nz. If it ends in anything else, then you know straight away it's a dodgy one.
So it's ird.govt.nz.
Yes. Yep.
Because you can't spoof that.
No, it's a legitimate domain that no one else can actually take. You've got to be able to send it from there to have it. But the one that came in this week, it was pretty close. It had one different letter, so it was ire.gov.nz. So it almost looked right. Our client was onto it and sent it through to us and said, hey, look, I've got this, what do you reckon? And if you just took it at first glance, yeah, it was pretty much kosher if you just looked at it that way.
Even if there's no doubt, you should still really quite check if you get an IRD email.
Yeah, the only time they'll send you an email is if you actually given them your email address. So if you haven't actually told IRD your email address, then there's no way they'll email you. So that's the first thing, have I done it? If I'm not sure, ring your accountant or send the email to them and say, hey, look,
just forward it on to your accountant.
Yeah, and then we can tell you straight off whether it's good or bad. And we actually need to send them on to IRD as well. They have a special email address that they try and trap all these, because they try and shut them down as fast as they get them.
Yeah, but as quick as they shut one down, 2 more pop
exactly.
up.
And they just keep coming and coming. But IRD have also now created a victim support page.
Oh, all right.
So if you have been scammed, you can go to their page and find out what you need to do, and they've got some guidance there for you.
But see, I mean, it's this computer age. I did personal story, but I paid money off my phone account and it was credited to a phone account that I had probably about 10 years ago.
Yep.
And so they got quite grumpy because I hadn't paid their money. And I said, I did pay the money, it's on my... So, you know,
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that even though we're computerised, all sorts of things can go wrong.
Oh yeah, it does. And that raises another one with IRD as well, is that if you've got an old bank account listed with them, they'll start paying refunds out of that bank account. So you need to make sure you give them an up-to-date bank account. We're going through the process at the moment with IRD, just updating all our clients.
Yeah.
And you'll find in the next sort of 3-4 months, a lot of accountants are going to be saying, what's your bank account that you want your refunds paid into? You're not going to have much of a choice because IRD are getting away from cheques. But if they do have an old one, and we've had a recent one where we had a $6,000 refund paid out to an account that someone had 8 or 9 years ago that we didn't even know about, and of course the account didn't exist, the money went out, and a couple of days later bounced back, and the client was like, where's my money? Well,
yeah, so there is so much care that we've got to think about, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, who would have thought? Yeah.
Yeah, the electronic age has made it a lot more, you've got to be more cautious basically, and keep everything right up to date and be on your guard all the time.
That's where, very briefly, that's where something like TriTech comes in.
Yes, yeah, well, we can make sure it's all done the right way. You get your GST filed on time, which is a key nowadays, and gives you a good record.
Kerry, thank you very much indeed. In just a moment, we'll be taking you to Lincoln University. Jamie, you're promoting agriculture through the high schools.
Yes, so we have a roadshow called Soil Makes Sense, which came about because about 5 years ago I was down in Invercargill and I noticed that agriculture wasn't as popular as it used to be. I've been at Lincoln for about 11 years, and when I first started, agriculture was huge, and then, like I said, it went down a bit. So I thought, what can we do to make this better? How do we get kids engaged? How do we get parents engaged? How do we get schools engaged with the sector, knowing that there was huge demand? So I went to the council, and I also talked to DairyNZ, and I knew that DairyNZ had put a program on earlier where they used to go into schools and talk to really bright year 13 chemistry students and biology students and English students and that type of thing, and they used to bring in graduates and stuff, and I thought, I'm sure we can do this better. So we sat down and we invited the heads of department or the subject teachers in and the principals in and said, what can we do to engage with you and your students? And we came up with a plan. And we asked schools to give us their whole year 13 group, and we asked them for the whole. And our aim was to make it as easy as possible for the school, so we did that. And then we brought in 8 to 10 young, engaging people who were working throughout the whole value chain of the primary industries. So we had people like rural bankers, we had rural valuers, we had soil scientists, we had international marketers, we had all sorts of people, environmental people. We got them to come in. And originally we got them to come in with a prop. And so you've got these year 12s and they're going, what are we doing? What is this? They came in with the prop, and we got one of our professors of agriculture to come in and just set the scene and say, you know, this sector's ginormously, you know, we need resources in this sector, what are we going to do? These people stood up with their prop and they had to introduce themselves in 20 seconds. And so the kids were like, okay. And then what we did was get them to position themselves around the hole, and they did a round robin. And they had 8 minutes with each of the people. And the actual presenters had to say what they were doing, how they got there, and where they wanted to go, and talk to the students. And then we brought them back up on stage, and we did a question and answer panel with them. And this is where it got interesting, because we asked them what they earned per hour instead of salaries. So we had people standing up saying they were earning $65 an hour. You can imagine the students and they're going, I earn $13.50, holy moly, how do you get into that job? We asked them what they liked about their jobs, what they hated about their jobs, and the whole aim was to keep it short and snappy enough for kids to go, I didn't even know that job existed. The key thing for us was that it was not about Lincoln University, it was about the sector, so we didn't do any Lincoln promo whatsoever. And we, like I said, we planted these seeds. The students took the information away and they took no promo gear, they just took these thoughts away. The thing about it was that we were getting phone calls from parents the next day saying, what's happened, my son was going to be a pilot, now he's going to go into agricultural science, what have you done? And we're thinking, oh God, have we done the right thing here? But it worked out. So it was quite successful in that regard.
What sort of follow-up is there?
So what we usually do, In the past, we've just basically set the scene and walked away. We were seeing results such as schools that Lincoln traditionally had only got 1 or 2 students from, were giving us 16 students, and we're just like, that cohort that came through and were involved in the roadshow were giving us 16. What we're doing now is handing out little sheets where we can get people's contact details, and we engage with them a couple of days afterwards just to say, you know, what did you think of this? Do you need any further information? Etc. The key thing to note is that we're advertising all avenues of agricultural education. So it's not just Lincoln, it's also Massey. Since our first pilot, we've actually brought Massey on board, and we're now bringing Pika on board as well. So there's now terms of reference, here's a group, and this year alone we've been to 23 schools and we've seen 1,900 students. So it's getting exciting, it's getting busy. And what the gorgeous thing is that we're seeing industry are ringing us up asking to be involved, because there's no other way they can have contact to every Year 12 student at a school and sell what they're doing. So it works.
Are you just doing rural schools, or are you doing urban and rural?
We're actually focusing more on urban, because that's where we need to really penetrate the market. Rural schools have generally an understanding, but at this stage we're just going out and seeing who wants us. And now that it's getting busy, I think we can be a little bit more picky and really push. I'd love to push the urban schools in Auckland a lot more. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see. But
So it's still very much a work in progress.
very much. I think we're just on the verge of it being quite ginormous. So we're going to have to look at how we run things in the future and make sure that we're doing what we can to really, really increase interest in the sector. So there's a bit of planning that has to happen, because at the start of it you're kind of winging it and going, yeah, this is great, this is awesome, the results are fantastic, but now I just really want to cement it and make sure that we're doing everything we can. So.
Are you going to be looking at placing people within the industry?
Probably not at this stage. I think the key thing for me is generating that interest. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this forever, and we go into schools and most students know about lawyers, accountants, teachers, doctors, nurses, dentists, those types of roles. And what we have to do is take them away from that and say, you know, there's this whole ginormous sector. You may want to be an accountant. Have you thought about being a rural accountant and taking that skill set and putting it into an industry where there is demand? So I'd rather stay at that point. In regards to placing, I think we could probably bring industry into that and maybe work with them closer, but that's not something we're really looking at this stage.
So you're just opening doors?
Yeah, I'm a door opener. Yeah. What can I say? Yeah.
Lincoln University is certainly a fund of great information. Straight after the break, we're going to be talking cropping with Dennis Carter.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good. You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Dennis, not all trace elements are equal.
Indeed, Rob. Some formulations are derived from the sea and things like that, and others are made in chemists' departments and things like that. And one that is extremely good, or most of them are very, very good, that are chelated. And
Chelated.
Chelated. It's like the elements have a chemical claw that attracts to particles in the soil and certain elements in the soil, and that makes them stick and be available, where the ones that don't have the chemical claw, they totally rely on going through the leaf and into the sap stream. So things like Waxall, their formulations, which is a weird formulation, sort of almost like an algae or sort of a liquid grease, but it's formulated in that formulation because of the way it can release and where the chelates sit, and therefore it's used extremely well.
Now that's interesting you should mention Waxall, because they do that sort of leaf type fertilisation.
Yes, indeed, and most trace element compounds do work through the leaf rather than through the soil, but anything that misses the leaf goes onto the soil. It does adhere to the soil with this chemical claw. So basically, make sure you're dealing with a chelated formulation of trace elements.
Good on you.
Yep.
Now, brassicas and insects.
Yes, Rob. In a dry year like this, it's just heaven for pests of brassicas and things like the white butterfly caterpillar, of course, diamondback moth, which is a real pest, and there's resistance throughout New Zealand now on a lot of the chemicals that are actually registered for its control. And so really they need to seek expert advice as to which ones work and which ones don't, because some of the old ones just do not work at all. So there's also things like leaf miner that get cracking in the crops. So dry seasons, they all come out: diamondback moth, leaf roller, white butterfly, aphid, the whole lot come out, and they all attack at the same time.
You know, it's as though you didn't have enough problems.
Exactly. Yes, indeed.
So what do you do about this resistance?
Well, there are specific chemicals for the diamondback moth. The naturalites like Success and various other ones similar work particularly well, where they are insect growth regulators, and they put the caterpillar in a straitjacket so that as they grow they can't shed their skin and increase their size, and they just get squeezed to death basically.
Oh. I think you can say to that, but it's a good thing.
Not really, no.
Now, you mentioned dry year.
Yes, Rob. Out there, I think a fortnight ago I talked about a green drought. Well, she's now a full-blown, a week of nor'westers, and as I thought, it's probably losing something like 7 millimetres out of the soil profile per day. Now that's a lot to be lost and a lot to put on to catch up. And I think we're going backwards at the moment. There's a full-on fight to protect the yields that we have established, and therefore protect the costs that have gone into setting up these crops. And if farmers run out of water, run out of allocation, there's all sorts of things happening out there, like surface pumps no longer, because the well levels have dropped, they don't work anymore. You can't prime them, you can't get it up. So then you have to go to submersibles. And talking to Tony Deveron a couple of weeks ago, people are crazy if they don't put their submersibles or their pumping unit as close to their mesh at the bottom of the well. If they put it halfway up and then the water level drops, well, what happens? The pumps run short of water, they start capitating, they overheat, they fry themselves. They need water going past those motors to keep them cool. So why not dangle a bit more cable and take it right to the top of the strainer, the filter,
exactly,
at the bottom.
Do you reckon our grain yields are going to be back this year?
Yes, Rob. I think things are sort of moving in that direction. Not only grain yields, grain quality. We'll probably see the wheat proteins go up, but we'll see screenings in a lot of crops, thinner grain, especially barley, dryland barley. Well, I wouldn't give you sixpence for it now. It's probably being hayed off, and maybe people will want to silage it before it goes too far. Yeah.
Are we expecting fungi pressure?
On and off. Dry seasons, warm conditions generally favour day-night. Generally rusts, they need an average of about 13. They need a little bit of dew. We're getting a few dews and things like that. But then farmers irrigate, and so they actually cause a microclimate within the paddock. So you might be still looking at things like downy mildew or septoria, which are wet weather diseases. So there's a mixed bag there, but overall generally drier, so less of those downy mildews, septoria type things.
Feed barley.
Feed barley, the carryover crop is double of what it was last year. We're looking at about 59,000 metric tonnes unsold in silos at the last count, but that is going to be replaced by a 16% drop in area, which roughly equates the same as the extra carryover. And I think if we throw on top of that what the drought's going to do to the quantity and the quality of the barley in the ground, I think we're going to see a backward movement in stocks, which can only just lead to increase in price.
And briefly, ryegrass, what's happening there?
Well, ryegrass, we need to be thinking about that rusts that come into the leaf rust and crown rust that come into ryegrass, and blind seed disease. We need to be people that say, well, in a dry year you don't worry about blind seed disease, but farmers irrigate and irrigate and irrigate, so they create that environment inside the root zone in the ground zone of the plant, and those little mushrooms can be there and sporulate. So you probably want to think about the management you have exercised versus what disease you may have influenced and how you can mitigate that. And blind seed disease, a bit of carbendism at the right time, and you're in business.
Anders, thank you very much indeed. The Rural Women sponsor what they call the Enterprising Rural Women of the Year. And in just a moment you'll be meeting Joanne Taylor, who A, won it, but B, tells us all about what she does.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for the award. It's just an absolute privilege to be here. My thanks to Rural Women New Zealand for the opportunity to be part of these awards, and my congratulations to the other fantastic award winners. I'm very proud to be one of 6 amazing women that are here tonight. I'd especially like to thank the Rural Women ladies from Mid and South Canterbury who encouraged me to enter the awards and for their support of Latitude. Thank you also to New Zealand Post for sponsoring the Making It in Rural category. As we all know, a strong postal service is just a vital element of our rural communities, so thank you very much. My name is Joanne Taylor, as said, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to come and present my story about the Latitude journey for you today. For those of you who don't know, Latitude is a Canterbury-focused magazine about the real people and places within our region. As part of this awards process, I've been thinking about what it takes to go into business for yourself. Determination, courage, sheer madness, and clearly a desire to keep hitting your head against a brick wall, all because of that one vital element, passion. Passion for your product, and that's what I had, a passion for good reading, a passion for good writing, and a passion for great magazines. I had no background in media or journalism. I grew up in Melbourne, so yes, that does mean I am an Australian, but I've been living in New Zealand for 23 years, and I've worked mainly in the health sector, installing large computer projects in the UK, Australia, New York, and then Christchurch. My husband Dean and I run an intensive arable farm in mid-Canterbury. We have 19 different crops this year, all for high-end seed production. And after our 4 children, I felt the need for a new project, as one sometimes does, something I could call my own. And of course I needed to have that perfect rural business for working mothers, one that I could run from home, mainly during school hours, have school holidays off, and of course still be there to cook lunch for the occasional shearers. So I was at the hairdressers in Ashburton, and Ali had just set up a fantastic new salon, and she wished that she had options other than the newspaper to advertise her business in. Something glossy, she said. And I sat there and went, oh, I'll publish something. And I sat there with the foils in my hair, and I thought about how to produce a magazine. And then I thought about what other media come to us as women on farms. And I think it's very newspaper based, and it's very directed towards the male of the household. And I thought, hang on a minute, they've got it all wrong. We're partners in the rural businesses. We make the majority of decisions in the household. Sorry, the other 8 fellows that are here. Why not have a good quality publication that was directed towards the rural female? And as everyone in this room knows, it's a very powerful demographic. So it was that collision of discovering a need in the local market with a passion that I had harboured for many years, and hence Latitude was born. Ironically, when I was thinking of the name and what to call the magazine, I thought, oh, I'll call it Rural Women. And then I thought, there might be an organisation such as yours that would get a bit miffed if I did that. Maybe I should have come and talked to you. But anyway, I chose Latitude because it reflects not only the region geographically, but of course means freedom of thought and freedom of expression. So I created a mock-up of my grand idea and went to visit some potential advertising clients. You can't have a good quality magazine without advertising clients to support it. And I managed to get some that came on board with my vision straight away, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is that some of those original clients are still with us today, 43 issues later, and have advertised in every single one. So we must be doing something right for them. And it's been quite a journey that we've been on since. In October 2007, we put out our first edition of all 56 pages of it, and we produced it 4 times a year. Now we produce 6 times a year, and on average we have 192 pages. So it has grown. We've also added 2 bridal magazines, one Canterbury Bride, and just last week we produced the first South Island Bride magazine, again very targeted towards our local South Island market. All with a very small but very talented team who enjoy multitasking. And can I please take a moment to recognise my very talented team, 4 of whom have come from Mid-Canterbury to support us tonight. I'm very proud of these girls, and this award is as much for you as it is for me, so thank you very much. We feature really good stories about the people in our local region of Canterbury who are doing things that they love, from the likes of Bev Forrester, who does those amazing things with wool, to the local food producers, to people like the Fosters, who own Terrace Station, one of the oldest in Canterbury, and who have just left the station and its contents as a charitable trust to preserve it for generations to come. We cover the good stuff. Our readers spend a lot of time reading Latitude, and that's a rarity in today's media market. People flick through newspapers or they read online stories in seconds, but they spend on average 2 hours with each copy of Latitude. I must tell you, when I went to talk to the Malvern Lions, I do a bit of community speaking, we met in the Colgate pub, which is a little less salubrious, of course, than the Rutherford here tonight. But the guy got up to introduce me, and he stood there and he said, "It's a dim, dark day when Latitude arrives in our house." And I thought, crikey, that's not very nice. Here I am about to speak to his group, and I'm thinking, well, where's this going to go? He said, "The house goes quiet. I don't get fed." All because my wife grabs hold of Latitude and disappears for hours. One of my greatest satisfactions from Latitude is seeing my team really expand their horizons. They've all come on board without any industry experience and have gone from strength to strength in the job. So my employment philosophy is very much to employ based on passion for your product. You can't teach passion, you can teach skills. It's also a great privilege to be able to create a business, and there's been a bit of talk about that already, that is capable of attracting young people back to or to stay in our rural towns. More of this is vital if we're to keep those rural towns in New Zealand as a vibrant place to live and to work. I'm a firm believer in giving back to the community that supports me and my business. I do this by sponsoring local school and community fundraisers. I give time each month to go and speak to local groups such as Rural Women and Probus. And we also help to promote local fundraising events and charities with discounted or free advertising support, and generally helping getting their story out to our community. We collect up the unsold copies of Latitude and distribute them to the local nursing homes and hospitals as well. Latitude has given me the platform to get to many different rural and urban community groups, and I try to use this platform to present farming in a positive light. It always amazes me the questions that I get, not only about farming, but of course about the environment. And if I can make or change one small attitude, then I think I'm doing a good job. I've also built up a bit of a following with my fortnightly e-newsletter, which attracts many comments as I pose the question of the week, whether it be about bees or whether I should share a suitcase with my husband when travelling. Overwhelmingly no was the response. I engage with our readers across many different platforms, in person, in the magazine, in their inbox, on Facebook and our website. And that, I believe, is one of the reasons that we continue to go against the trend in media and grow our sales. Latitude has a real empathy with its readers, and in return they show us fantastic loyalty. I've been part of an organising committee for the local Long Beach Coastal Challenge, which is actually happening next Sunday, so I'm very calm really. For the last 9 years, it's a running, biking and walking event that we set up across 3 local farms, and Latitude is proud to sponsor the Facebook page and website, as well as the design and print for all of their promotional material. This event's raised over $156,000, all of which goes to local youth in our community. I'm also honoured to be a trustee representing the farming and business sector for the Advance Ashburton Community Foundation. In this past year, our investment funds have grown to just over $9.5 million, and we hope to be able to give out over $350,000 in grants next year. One of the issues that has been highlighted to me, and again has been mentioned tonight, that needs funding support is rural mental health and also support for rural migrant workers in our farming community. So projects are starting to line up for 2016. My other challenges, well, with 5 children, there are always challenges, aren't there? The 2 older boys have left home to work, although at least one of them is threatening to be home by Christmas. I still have 3 children at 3 different schools. Georgina's tackling Year 12, Tom's in Year 5, and Kate, who came along unexpectedly a little bit in the first year of Latitude, brings up the rear. So what does the future hold for Latitude? Well, as I said, we've just produced a brand new magazine called South Island Bride, which is hot off the press. And we'll continue to focus on what we do best, making sure we bring the very best local stories to our readers. I absolutely love what I do, I'm passionate about it, and I love sharing the very best of what our rural region has to offer. Thank you very much.
Joanne, Canterbury twice in a row. What an absolute buzz for Canterbury and you.
Absolutely, it's a real thrill for Canterbury with Kerry last year and now Latitude and myself this year. I'm absolutely thrilled for the region, it's fantastic.
So how did and why did you put your name forward?
Well, it was really the encouragement of the local mid and some of the South Canterbury rural women ladies, and they kept saying to me, oh, you've got to enter these awards, you know, you'd be really good at it. And I was like, oh, I'm not that great at putting myself forward for those sort of things. And finally I thought, after the 10th person had come in and said, you really need to do that. And so she brought the entry forms in with her and said, right, let's do that. And so we filled them in, they were my sponsors, and here we are, which is fantastic. A great reward for them as well.
So your advice to somebody else who people are saying you should enter?
Just do it. Just do it. It really does make you look at your business in all aspects of your business, from where you've started, and just look at the journey and how far you've actually come. And that's a great thing to do in terms of looking forward for your business as well. And just the support that you get from the many people within Rural Women New Zealand, I think is going to be fantastic going forward as well.
So you learnt lots when the judges were coming round?
Yes, that was a scary presentation in some ways in Wellington, but no, they were very good, and it was quite interactive, and they asked lots of really pertinent questions, and you know your business, so it's actually not that bad, really. Yeah.
What do you think it's going to mean to Latitudes and Bride?
Well, hopefully it means that more people will be exposed to Latitude and see the good reading and go out and buy a copy, perhaps even subscribe. So, and more great stories, of course, that we'll be able to identify and investigate, as you well know.
And we'll be meeting other finalists on the land next week. In the meantime, we'll be back in just a moment.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good. You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
question for every farmer in the country is, what's my property worth? so basically, what are selling?
Rob, there's quite a wide range of properties selling at the moment, and through from dairy to sheep and beef to arable throughout the country is a good spread. They're probably, given the market, there has been some reduction in sales numbers, but we are seeing dairy farms in good locations with good infrastructure and good productive history selling. In the lower end of the market, as far as scale, 200 hectares and less, we're seeing a lot of local buyers who are taking the opportunity to upscale, go to a better property, or they're looking to get into their first farm.
The bottom line is that dairy price is cyclical, and it's not always going to be down here.
It's not always. No, it's not. No, and that's probably we are seeing some buyers taking a longer term view, and especially probably the investor corporate types who are looking in that larger scale, 200 to 400 hectare properties. They are taking a longer term view of the cycle, looking through the cycle,
yep.
And are looking to purchase and are active in the marketplace.
And the corporates are active.
They are, yeah, at the large scale. In the South Island here, if I had to take that 200 hectare plus, which seems to be the cut-off line between what locals can afford at the moment and what the investors are looking for scale, they are the main buyers in the marketplace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sheep and beef?
Yeah, sheep and beef. The beef side of it, take it in two parts. The beef side obviously is probably a success story. Some of the best prices we've seen in a long while, and those guys are really capitalising on that. The sheep, lamb's okay without being really a hit. Wool showing signs of improvement. So those things are showing. We are seeing farms transact, and the North Island we're seeing quite a number of South Island buyers move north and buy farms up there, and at higher prices, $1,000 a stock unit. Yeah.
So what about small holdings?
Small holdings, yeah, anything up to sort of 80, 100 hectares, add-on stuff like that. Really good demand. People buying the neighbours, and smaller lifestyle end. Yeah, prices are firm, but numbers are back.
Really? Because
yeah.
you the old 5-year rule.
Yes, yeah. No, look, at the moment in our local area here, we're certainly seeing a large amount of stock on the market. More than there has been in previous years, and buyers have choice and buyers are being picky. You know, they're waiting for that dream property.
Pricing, we haven't really talked pricing. Are they holding?
Prices are holding, yeah. When we think about the lower end of the market, we've seen a couple of farms selling here in Canterbury that have gone unconditional in the last 2 months at prices that I would suggest would have been top of the market 2 years ago. So there are some, for a genuine article that's got a strategic location, good infrastructure as far as sheds and water, and good productive history, we're seeing prices, nearer 60,000 a hectare than 50. Yeah.
Which is good.
Which is great, yeah.
Now let's talk a wee bit about horticulture, because vineyards and kiwi fruit.
Yeah, the vineyards, kiwi fruit is now back, especially for the gold variety, is now back above prices we were seeing at the hype, over $250,000 per canopy hectare. So they've really rebounded after the PSA. Yeah.
Which is good.
It was great.
So what are the key drivers?
The key drivers at the moment, probably we're seeing confidence to the dairy industry, probably riding the trends of the dairy auction.
Yeah.
So in October we saw 2 or 3 auctions head in the right direction, some really good lifts, and we got the buyer inquiry was a lot higher. People thinking, hey, are we through the woods? We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, that waning off now. We've seen 3 sales sort of go the other way. And we've seen buyers think, well, hey, maybe we'll just cool our heels and wait till after Christmas. So that's probably a main confidence in the dairy buyers, has waned.
But you did say that the corporates are looking.
They are still looking. Yeah, but they'll come and go as well. But they take a longer term view. The local buyers are probably what is waning. They come and go, because the other ones have probably leveraged themselves quite significantly in the last 10, 15 years.
So what should people think about, Gareth, when they're thinking they may sell?
Thinking of selling, my advice to anyone thinking of selling is that you actually get you get a really good team of professionals around you. And when I say that, I think your solicitor, your accountant, your bank manager, maybe your farm consultant, and a real estate agent. All right, so get those people involved early in the process.
Yep.
Plan ahead. It may be 12 months down the track or 24 months, but plan ahead and get your farm in the best possible state it can be to take to market. Whether that's timing, presentation is key.
It's really key,
isn't it? You can, it's very difficult selling something that doesn't look its best. If you want to, the result you want, our key driver is to get you the premium price on your hand that the market will pay.
Because the more they make, the more you make.
Well,
too.
effectively, yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's that for us. That's our main focus, is to get them the best possible price the market will pay in an appropriate time frame. Okay, and to do that, we need to have the property looking its best.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sounds as though everything is going according to plan, Gareth. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
Speaking of real estate and venues, in a moment we'll be taking you out to Innovation Park. Terry, Young Farmers as an organisation has really come of age.
Yeah, it really does feel that way. We've come from a small provincial office in mid-Canterbury where we had a staff of 14, very much centred around being a membership network for our members, our absolute important stakeholders. And whilst that's still a real focus of ours and the central core of our organisation, we've actually grown a bit now where we're working with schools, we're working with industry to really try and capture that, attract, develop and retain talented and bright people into our industry.
Bottom line is that agriculture in New Zealand is pretty light on people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that the message that hasn't been getting out is that the whole primary industry, whether it be dairy farming, sheep and beef, forestry, seafood, viticulture, horticulture, whatever it is, actually needs a wide variety of skills. So our members, they represent accountants, lawyers, business managers, scientists, marketers, engineers, as well, of course, as people who work the land.
Are you able to make farming sexy?
Trying to, yeah. So, it is the powerhouse of our economy. 18% of all employees across the country work in the broad sector. We need to attract the best and brightest. In fact, we need to attract the best and brightest on farm as well as these support services that get our product to market.
And career-wise, I guess now with corporates, there is a career in agriculture.
Yeah, and also the whole value chain idea of not just producing commodity to sell on the world stage, but actually brands New Zealand. And there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make that happen. So clever marketers, clever process people to make sure that we've actually got the right product to offer.
Now you've moved to Innovation Park in Templeton.
Great move for us. I came to have a look at the opening of the Grain and Seed Trade Merchants Association office about 18, 20 months ago, and saw that this particular building on site was sort of next cab off the rank for development, and sort of realised not only is the location great, 10 minutes from Christchurch International Airport and close to the city, it's actually quite a rural setting, which makes it really relevant for us to be here. Plus there's some other organisations that we're quite close to, the likes of FAR and the Grain and Seed Trade Merchants Association, that makes sense to collaborate on site.
It's a big area.
Yeah, it is 160 acres. So, if I ever get stressed, I can look out of my office window and see cows eating grass outside, and it's actually a really relaxing position to be in.
What's the history of the place?
My understanding is the Templeton Hospital closed, which was what this site was, closed about 25 years ago, and the major family purchased it for future development and have been very careful to work out what they want this place to be. And now that the focus really is around the agriculture sector and particularly supporting the non-profits like ourselves, it is an amazing thing. But yes, an old hospital. This particular building housed intellectually handicapped children and helped their quality of life when they needed help. So it's actually quite nice to be in a situation where our building has had a really important function.
And young people will enjoy it.
And young people, absolutely.
But it looks brand new.
Yeah, the guys have done an amazing job. This was quite a derelict building. It was watertight, etc., but no work done for 25 years, and it was an old ward. So it needed a lot of work to be brought back to life. The floors, of course, being a hospital, had lino stuck very heavily to it. So bringing the floorboards back to life, it's all beautiful remu. Adding better windows and things, and more windows, so it's a lot lighter. Yeah, the guys did a terrific job. And they did it in a reasonably good, timely fashion too. So by the time we moved in, the vast majority of it was done. You know, there's always finishing stuff that happens around you, but that's been a great journey for us.
Now, I guess your members will get a lot out of having a place like this as their centre point.
Yeah, so we host a lot of meetings on site. So we've got a boardroom that can seat 25. And we regularly have some of our sort of senior committee meetings and national get-togethers here on site, which is, we've never had that ability when we were in Methven.
And it's got a courtyard and all the modern facilities.
Yeah, and the thing is, we want to offer a facility that to attract great staff, you need to attract them with a nice place to work, and this certainly fills that brief.
It really is a magnificent area. Straight after the break, though, we're going to be talking irrigation.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things. Make a positive change to the planet. To feed the world. To protect the future. To live well. To be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Tony, no beating around the bush, serious drought.
Yeah, there is no beating around the bush. I mean, I don't want to wave a banner here, but there's been plenty of warnings about this. I mean, we've been warning. We personally have been warning about this for a long time. I mean, all the symptoms have been there for several months now, and it is, as everybody said, really starting to bite. We're getting into December. Everything sort of stacked up that it was going to be the December period that would really start to hurt, and it is starting to hurt. I mean, we are really we're struggling with an absolute lack of rainfall more than anything else. If you look at the crop demands, we're sort of in the upper above average type demands. We haven't got extreme demands, so we're not getting a week full of sort of 25 to 35 type degrees with the wind blowing. We're getting a mixture of days. I mean, all over New Zealand we're getting these mixtures of days, especially along the east coast. We're getting some really warm northwesterly sort of days and some quite strong winds when your demands are going to be high. So you're going to push the 5.5 to 6 millimetres a day on those days. And then we're sort of slipping back into this sort of northeasterly weather. Occasional southerly still comes through, and that sort of lowers everything. And cloud cover's great, it drops demand. But the big issue is that we're just not getting any rain. I mean, there is just no rain coming. And it always amazes me when you, when you listen to forecasts about the fact that, there's a big nor'westerly system coming on the west coast and there'll be some spillover and, Canterbury might get a few millimetres. Dreamers.
Yeah. But at least the rivers were starting to get cloudy.
Well, they were. I flew back over the rivers recently, and the Rakawa was relatively cloudy. Not big though. I mean, we're not getting those big northwest events down the down the major rivers. So we're not getting them down the South Island rivers. We're not getting them down those the eastern rivers for example, the Wairarapa and into Hawke's Bay. We're not getting those systems that are raising the water levels in those rivers. So we really are along the east coast of both islands now, really looking at a very serious situation.
Tony, is it a dumb suggestion to irrigate at night so there's less evapotranspiration?
No, look, evaporation is a really small loss to the whole system. Evaporative losses when you irrigate are only about 3 to 4% of what you're actually applying.
So it is a dumb question.
No, it's not a dumb question, but it's a question that everybody asks or everybody raises. You know, people see irrigators operating during the day when it's warm and it's hot, and they go, "Oh, look at all that water that could be evaporating," and it's exactly that. It could be evaporating. It takes 5 times the amount of energy to raise a drop of water or a cubic metre of water, for example, 1 degree than it does to raise the same volume of air, 1 degree. So to take water from, generally our groundwater in particular is of the order of 11 or 12 degrees C, to get it to the point that it could actually evaporate before it hits the ground from maybe 2 or 3 metres above the ground is a near impossibility.
Right.
The systems that we do need to have some concerns about, and everybody will have seen them running, are the high pressure guns. Now, when you try and squirt water into the wind from a high pressure gun, then you break up the droplet sizes. So suddenly you have very small droplet sizes instead of large droplet sizes, and a higher proportion of that water will evaporate. But it's the issue of it not landing where you want it to land that is the big inefficiency, if you want to call it, in irrigation. When it's windy, except for centre pivots and big linear irrigators, we have water that doesn't end up at the right place. It just doesn't end up on target, basically. So evaporations are pretty low, of very low concern.
Centre pivots come into their own, don't they?
Oh, under those circumstances, under windy circumstances, centre pivots or the big linear moves, which are the same device as a centre pivot, except it runs backwards and forwards in a straight line, not round and round in a circle. The sprinkler technology on those irrigation systems have been designed for wind fighting, have been designed so that we have large droplet sizes and we get great uniformity and we get very few losses. So the water ends up where you want it to go.
Tony, are you expecting a lot more people to try to get into irrigation because we've had drought after drought?
Look, everybody particularly in the eastern parts of both of our islands and certainly some of the other parts, for example, in the Waikato and Bay of Plenty, everybody wants to get into irrigation. We know that if you can apply water in any of those climates, that there is a payback. The biggest issue is now water supply. In most areas, groundwater is effectively fully allocated. Most of our rivers have all their water fully allocated. And the only source of water is to actually store high flows. And that is becoming increasingly more expensive to do. So if you look at schemes like the Ruataniwha scheme in the North Island, if you look at the Huranui scheme here in the South Island, you even look at parts of the Central Plains water scheme, the cost of that water now is nearly twice what it was. Central Plains, for example, is nearly twice what it started out to be. So, you know, stage 2 and 3 are proportionately more expensive to get involved in with the water. And it's, can you make that water, which might cost you $5,000 or $6,000 a hectare to buy into, can you make that $5,000 or $6,000 a hectare pay? And right now, you can't make it pay with dairying because the payout's probably only going to be about $450 or $460. Nobody's writing home about the price of wheat or barley, which are other big crops. There's a limit to the number of specialty seeds that you can grow, which are high risk, high return, sure, but you can't have the whole of the Canterbury Plains in those. That's just not conceivable.
So do your homework.
So you have to do your homework and you have to see whether or not you can make that water pay. But sure, there are more and more farmers that want to get into irrigation.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. Now, if you'd like to recap and re-look at Tony's interview, don't forget you can go on to our website, which is ontheland.co.nz. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed the program, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, Bye now.